Hi, today's repair is to change the front bearing on the aircon compressor on a BMW E60 520D with an N47 engine. The old belt has been removed simply by turning the tensioner clockwise to release the tension and then to remove the belt. Okay, to loosen the center bolt, you need to insert two M6 bolts into these slots. So one over there and one diagonally across. They'll just fit in loosely. So just insert them, and they are big enough so that they can pull out from the top. Once you have that, you'll use that as leverage to keep the pulley firm while you loosen the center bolt. So then between the two bolts you insert the screwdriver, hold it firm so that it doesn't move anti-clockwise. The entire pulley must not move anti-clockwise. So you'll be pushing down on this whilst you'll be lifting up on your ratchet in a anti-clockwise direction to help loosen that center bolt, which is a 10mm bolt. So you may ask an assistant for help to hold the pulley firm whilst you loosen the center bolt. It's not that tight, but it does need some force to get it loose. Now that the center bolt is loose, I've removed those two M6 bolts. Since you never know with these things, I'm just going to mark the position of the one rivet in this front faceplate, so that when I put it back together, if it has to go into a specific position, at least I have the position mark. So I'm going to mark there, which I hope I can see. I'm going to mark that rivet there, which now has a black spot on it, and I'm going to mark this position here, and I'm going to maybe just mark on the pulley itself. I don't think it's crucial, but rather be safe than sorry. Let me just get this mark quite good. Okay, so there we have it, so that when I remove it, I can put it back in its original position. So now I'm just going to undo the center bolt by hand. I have a 10mm socket and a short extension, which gives me enough space between the radiator fan and this aircon pulley. So I'm going to undo this nut, and then I'm going to try and remove the front faceplate. I meant to say undo the bolt. That's what it looks like. It doesn't have a size on it, but it's a 10mm bolt which just screwed out easily. And now I'm going to try and remove the plate in front. Okay, faceplate is off. Just came off easily. This is what it looks like. Okay, so it just slots onto the shaft. So once this center bolt is removed, I simply pull it off, and then you have some kind of spacer that's riveted onto the pulley, and in the middle there is the shaft and the bearing, and there should be a circlip that needs to be removed before you can pull the pulley off. Let me see if I can see the circlip. Can't really show you, but there's definitely a circlip around there which needs to be removed, and then we're going to try and pull the whole pulley off. So this spacer is riveted onto the pulley, so it looks like it will have to remain. So I'm going to try and get the circlip off, and then I'm going to try and pull the pulley off. Let's just have a listen to see if this bearing was really worn out. Definitely sounds extremely rough, so it's a good call. We need to pull this pulley off. Once the pulley is off, there's a bearing inside there that needs to be replaced. I ended up using a small flathead screwdriver to get this circlip out, which essentially sits on the lip there, around the lip, and keeps, there's a ridge in which it sits firmly, not too far back from where the pulley is onto the shaft. Okay, next we're going to have to get this pulley off. So in order to pull the pulley, we're going to use a special tool. It's called a ribbed pulley puller. Essentially, the claws of the puller fit into the grooves of the pulley, and then as you tighten the center bolt, it starts to pull the pulley out. What I've done is inserted a bolt in the center of the shaft so that I don't damage the thread. So I'm actually tightening against a bolt that's in the middle. I'll show you the bolt just now, and then as we tighten, you should be able to pull this pulley off. So I'm using a normal ratchet with a 16mm socket. I'm going to tighten and get this pulley off. Okay, you can notice that I'm pulling on the actual ribs and not on the face or the edge of the pulley, so as to not to distort or damage the pulley. Okay, so let me do that. Okay, pulley came off quite easy. This is the bolt that I'm referring to. I've inserted this in the shaft. Let me remove it and show you. It matches the threads of the original bolt, but I didn't want to damage the original bolt. I actually used one that's stronger. That's the one I used. I just drilled a center hole, slightly off center, but essentially I drilled a center hole in here. There's a small indentation which is important for the tool, so that the tool, as you tighten the center, tool doesn't slip off the head of this bolt. So that's the idea. This is what the tool looks like. It's called a ribbed pulley puller, and as you tighten the center, it pushes against this bolt and it pulls the pulley out with the bearing. So this is what it looks like. This is the side that was facing towards the radiator, and as we pulled it off the shaft, essentially this is what it is, and this is the bearing that we need to replace. So to replace the bearing, I'm going to use a bearing press to press the bearing out and press a new one in. Okay, so the old bearing has been removed. This is what it looks like. Quite a noisy bearing, also damaged on the seal. When removing the bearing, it's important to remove it from the front, so you push it from behind. There are some notches there, or stakes. It's about 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, I think 4 over there. These are slight indentations on the casing which prevents a bearing from moving forward. So you can knock those in. I just use the screwdriver and a hammer just to tap them in so that they are flush with the housing. Then press the bearing out forward and press a new bearing in. The new bearing is fitted. It cannot be pushed out from behind, so it has to be pushed out from this side forward towards the radiator side. Okay, so now we just need to fit this back onto the aircon compressor shaft, put the cover on, tighten the bolt, and hopefully it will be quiet and working like new. Also important, do not apply pressure with a vice grip or a clamp on this pulley. It's quite soft and can easily deform. As you can see, I've deformed it slightly on that outer edge. So be very gentle with it, and it's preferable not to use a hammer to remove the bearing and to press in a new bearing. It's a safer option to use a bearing press. Okay, to get the pulley back onto the shaft with a new bearing, it doesn't just simply push on. I had to use a piece of wood, a nice flat piece of wood. There isn't much room here, so flat piece of wood that just squeezed in between the pulley and this aircon pipe, and then I tapped it lightly using a very small hammer, really a baby hammer, and once it passed the first notch, it then simply went in. So a few taps, gentle taps, preferably in the center, until the pulley goes onto the shaft. Once that is done, just need to put that snap ring on, put the cover back on, and that should be that. Okay, so when you put the snap ring in, the bevel side must face outwards and the flat side faces inwards. Snap ring is flat on one side and beveled on the other side. So snap ring is in place. Now for the cover and the bolt.